And we are lucky enough to be joined by Executive Vice President and General Manager Howie Roseman, someone who handles pressure very well. Howie, how's it going today?
How we doing, guys?
Doing great, Howie. How are you feeling, man? It's been a busy offseason for you, coming off the draft. Just a quick overview. I know you've talked about the draft and the draft picks this past weekend, but for us, just your thoughts on what you guys were able to address and whether or not you feel good about coming out of the draft, addressing some of the things you felt you wanted to get addressed in this draft.
Yeah, the draft, you're competing with 31 other teams, so it's never going to be perfect. You know, you're always going to lose players that you wanted to draft because you're subject to what everyone else does. And in terms of how you're feeling, I'm feeling like we got to get these guys in here and develop them. You know, that's the most important thing, what they do now. However good we felt after the draft ended, none of it matters. All that matters is how they go play. And so that's where we're at right now. That doesn't mean we're not excited about the potential of these guys. But right now, Ike, that's what it is. It's potential, and they got to turn that into production.
You often talk about how the offseason is always evolving, right? It's not just free agency. It's not just a draft. It's different waves of this thing. As you guys get prepared for your rookie mini camps and your OTAs, I know you guys still keep your eye open for what's happening around the league and what may become available. But when you look at the young guys you got on your roster, particularly on the defensive side of the football, you feel good about going into these early camps and getting a chance to see if these guys can be able to possibly grab a starting position when you look at some of those key spots on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think we're really fortunate that we don't have a lot of open spots on our football team, and that's a great credit to the players that we have in here. Really got a young defensive football team with a lot of players who played championship caliber football. So that's exciting. You're not worried about going into a season and worried about pressure moments with these guys because a lot of these guys have won world championships. A lot of the guys that we brought in here have kind of championship pedigree. And so that makes you excited that it won't be too big. And then, I know from my perspective and hopefully our fans' perspective, knowing that we have two guys on our defense who are older than 25 years old. That is unbelievable. That's really exciting. And I'm biased, but I do think it's not just because they're young, but they're good players. So we look forward to that. I think we added a lot of competition. I think we're fast on defense, and I think we got a heck of a defense coordinator. And, all that being said, that's how it looks on paper. We got to put it together. We got to work really hard. We got to be prepared to defend our championship starting with that Thursday night game at Lincoln Financial Field.
Howie, I know the draft class is still new, but I guess if you had to describe this class in what word would you use to describe them?
Yeah, I think that's unfair. I probably could go through each player and give you a one-word description of each player, but, I'd hate to generalize, our whole class based on one word because they're different players. They're different flavors, Everyone we got, they're different positions, and they all different strengths, and that's how I kind of look at it. Like, what are the things that these guys can do really well? And then there's a bunch of areas that we got to develop because, we forget these guys are 21, 22, 23 years old. Changing cities, coming into a different profession with grown men performing for their family. So we got to develop them as well. And I think that's the exciting part. I think we have the right people to do that. And I think these guys have the tools in their body and the right mentality to want to be developed, which is a big part of development.
You guys certainly replenish talent, Howie, in a lot of different areas. We talked about on the defensive side of the ball, even added depth late in the draft with the offensive line, which you guys typically do as far as getting guys developed. I was a little surprised the tight end position wasn't necessarily addressed in the draft kind of early based on some of the things that we've heard about what could potentially happen. So I won't beat around the bush with you. Dallas Goedert is a big question mark for a lot of the fans wanting to know what his future is going to be like being here. Are you guys any further along as far as deciding what that's going to look like as far as him being here or not moving forward?
Yeah, I think you get into trouble when you just go into a draft and say, I got to get a position. I've done that before, and it never works out really well. So you really want to be consistent with what you have on the draft board. And every time we were picking, a guy stood out, that it was higher graded than where our selection was. At times that we had multiple guys like that, we just moved back, and picked up more picks because, the more picks you have, the more chance you hit on them. And you talked about the offensive line. We typically would like to go into a draft and take offensive linemen higher. We didn't do that, but when we got to the third day, we saw guys that we thought had real potential, and that's what they are right now, potential, because of the tools in their body and what we saw on film. And so we took not only one guy, not only two guys, but we also had another guy in free agency after the draft that we liked. So, I think and that just increases and hitting on your odds. That you're not just putting one guy in a basket and hoping that guy hits. In terms of the tight end position and Dallas, I would say this, it's I'm looking at my phone, so it had to take me a second. It's Thursday, May 1st. It's freaking May 1st. It's May 1st. I promise you one thing. We are not going to stand pat between now and when we play on Thursday Night Football. And I think that includes all positions. So I'm going to give you an answer without giving you an answer, and you're going to have to read it from there.
Sounds great. Now, one guy that Eagles fans are excited about is Jihad Campbell, and I got two questions for you on Jihad. First, do you view him more as an edge that can play linebacker or a linebacker that can play edge?
Right before I got on this call, they said Jihad was outside my office. He wanted to come say hello. We are going to love this player and this person in Philadelphia. I couldn't be more excited that we were able to get him in this draft last week. And when you ask that question, I'd say yes.
Of course. And, obviously the only reason it seems like he was there was because of shoulder and knee concerns. I know you won't get into detail about the injuries, but I guess what would you say to Eagles fans who are concerned about some multiple injuries happening here with Jihad Campbell?
Yeah, I mean, a huge part about playing in the NFL is being durable and being able to play a lot of games. That's a huge part of what we look at when we're drafting guys. There's no chance that if he wasn't coming off of off-season shoulder surgery that he would have been within distance for us to go get because he's that talented of a guy. I think that over the last couple of years, our medical staff has proven their success with guys. That doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect, but we were very confident even when we thought he was just a top 10 player in the draft, and we wouldn't come close to him about how he would be. I don't even want to say long term, because when long term, I think of this player playing for us 3, 5, 7 years from now, which we're all confident here that he'll do. But even in the short term, I think for our fans, this is what I would say. I'd say. In a situation, and I'm not saying this is apples to apples, but last year we drafted Coop in the second round. Coop didn't play till the week of our last preseason game. It's hard to remember, but he didn't start until week 6, which was really our 5th game. How did that work out? And so I think we can be a little patient here. And make sure that this guy is right, and because that's what we're going to do, we're going to make sure he's right, that we are going to have a heck of a player for the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time.
Yeah, and everybody's pretty much excited about him, local kid, so that certainly is someone that we're all looking forward to rooting for. Howie, you mentioned earlier about the youth on that side of the football, the defensive side of the football, and yesterday you guys picked up the 5th-year option for Jordan Davis. Jordan certainly finished off the season much stronger than he started the season. First question on that with him, the decision to pick up that 5th-year option. Why did you guys do it? And then secondly, his development, watching him develop through the first 3.5 years of his career, going into his 4th season. How has that been going according to your evaluation, and where do you guys expect him to be moving forward?
Well, I think if I answer the second part, the first part's going to be easy.
Okay.
When you watch Jordan and how he looked the second half of the season, and that's a big part of it, how he looked. Mm-hmm. He was in great physical condition and shape. He was disruptive during the playoff run. We forget, again, players still develop. When you look at the history of defensive tackles in the National Football League, you see a lot of really successful guys that people forget took to year 3 and 4 to really hit their stride. And we think he's just in his stride. This guy is going to play really good football for us here. He's an unbelievable person, worker, leader, and I think the sky's the limit for him. I think that he feels it, and he's got tremendous confidence, and I'm excited for our fans to understand why we thought it was a really easy decision for us to pick up the option.
So, Howie, on Monday, we're honoring Brandon Graham on 5-5, of course. It's BG Day here on the station.
That's awesome.
What's it going to be like without him on the team, obviously, every day? I think he'll be around the NovaCare. He's not going anywhere. But
sure.
What are we losing from that standpoint? And do you have a favorite Brandon Graham story for us?
Well, I'll tell you what. We've had some great players here that I've been fortunate to be around, including one I'm interviewing with right now. But the relationship that BG and I have is special because obviously first pick for me as a GM, and really a lot of times I feel like our careers kind of paralleled each other. There was a time where it wasn't so much fun for either of us here in Philadelphia, and we kind of fought through it together, and obviously BG making that play in the Super Bowl was incredibly special for our fans, for our team, and for me personally, obviously. And so, that we've had a lot of these guys. I can't tell you that I have a favorite because all of them mean an incredible amount to me. That would be like picking a favorite kid, which I do have some days of the week, and. I think that, it's just a special relationship that we've had and just a lot of conversations, a lot of support for one another. Not only do I feel like I've had his back, but I feel like he's always had my back and been tremendously confident in what I'm going to do. I mean, you talk about that group of Kelsey and Fletch and BG and Lane, and, throughout all those changes, they always believed. They always believed we would get it right here, and I never took that lightly. I always felt special that they believed in that and felt an obligation to do whatever I could to make sure that they were as successful as possible. So in terms of BG's story, I got a lot of them. I'm not sure that they're suitable for this call right at this moment, but let me think about that, and maybe on BG Day I'll unveil one.
It is remarkable, Howie, just listening to you recant sort of that journey. You coming in 2010, BG, your first round draft pick there, the way the careers parallel to each other. Early in BG's career, he dealt with injuries. He dealt with not necessarily being productive. Coach Reed was on the station yesterday, and he talked about some maturity things that BG sort of worked his way through early in his career. I'm interested from your part of, in those earlier years, tough discussions being had by you and whether it was Coach Reed, Jeffrey, about moving forward with BG. I'm wondering if those first 4 or 5 years when he isn't as productive as expected, was there ever a time where it was like, man, do we move on from him or we're sticking with him? I'm wondering, did you guys ever have those type of moments where you had to have those type of discussions?
As a young GM and as your first pick, and at the time you had a couple of players that everyone thought we should draft over him.
Earl Thomas, all that.
JPP. And he got hurt in 2010, and he was kind of coming back in 2011. And in 2011, as he came back, there was a game that we played in Miami. And I want to say at the time we were 4-8, and he was inactive. And, him and I had a conversation in Miami, which was basically like, if you're going down, I'm going down too, and you and I are going to be in it together because if you're not going to be successful, I'm not going to be successful. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it in Philadelphia without you being successful. And we shared a moment, and I guess that would be my story. And I'll never forget being in Miami, me and him eye to eye, and in typical BG fashion, he looked at me with a big smile and said, "I got you." I'm not sure I believed it at the moment, but I was hopeful. But he did. And, I feel like we've had each other's back, and, how we do things in Philly, they're not for everyone. I get it. But we're close with our players, and that doesn't mean that we can't make hard decisions. That doesn't mean that we have to sometimes, but that guy's a friend for life, and I'm just couldn't be more proud of the person he is, the player he is, and two-time world champ. Beautiful thing to say it.
Yep.
Man, it's just all time. It's just crazy. We're about to head into a year next year without. I mean, I know Kelsey retired last year and Fletch retired last year and Lane's still there, but an Eagles season without BG, Fletch, and Kelsey for the first time in seemingly forever.
15 years, yeah.
Forever.
Those are my security blankets. Thank gosh I got Lane, and I think that what our fans, and we miss those guys. You never replace legends. You never replace them, and so we'll never be able to do that. But I'm proud of the guys that we have here, and I do think that we have such a core group of great players and great people, and that's really the job that I have. Make sure that our fans look on the field and say, man, that's a great player and that's a great person. That's a great player and that's a great person. And compete for championships. That'll be an important thing for us, too. You know what I'm saying, Ike?
Yeah, listen, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's funny because we have you on to talk so much about your team that you build and the things around it. We rarely talk about you, per se. And I know you don't necessarily like to be talked about in that light, but you deserve a lot of credit. You talked about some of the things that you had to go through rough times here as well, and has bounced back with 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 championships under your resume, putting together a pretty good resume. And I know you got a lot of work to still do, and I'm not retiring you or anything of that nature.
Hell no.
Please no.
But I do wonder for you, how do you still have that same sort of love and energy to want to do this for many, many years? You're still a young man.
You haven't been around NovaCare very much, have you? You haven't. Yeah. I will tell you something. I couldn't be more motivated, more determined to have another parade through Broad Street where I don't get hit in the head. I feel like I only enjoyed half of that parade.
By the way, how's that going? Did you recover okay from that?
But I will tell you, I love this team, this city, my job so much. The day that I can't give you every single ounce of myself is the day I won't be here anymore. And obviously I don't get to decide that anyway, but I will never do that. And I couldn't be I feel like all these experiences have made me better. I continue to learn, and I'm continuing to hope that everything that we do leads to more world championships. They become addicting. They really do. And the confetti falling, it really gets you in a mode where nothing else matters. And so for me, I think I'm in this mode right now of just whatever it takes to get back, and whatever we got to do to keep getting back there. And it makes me proud that our fans can say, I felt after the first one there was a lot of, they got lucky, the run. Like, that's what I heard. I don't know what was said, but that's what I heard in my mind, and that's what I kept saying. Now we're at 2, and what are you going to say? Are we lucky twice? I don't think so. But I'll tell you what, 3's a charm.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you what, the fans, they are mirroring your sort of energy that you have right now, because they certainly are hungry for another one. We enjoy those parades. We had a great time this past year, and certainly look forward to doing it real soon. Before I get you out of here, man, what's next for you? What do you do now? Like you get to take a little bit of a break here? What do you get to do next?
This week, we get to look at these guys on the field, which is so much fun. We're in the middle of our off-season program. I love watching our players working. And then, we'll get a little break here after June. We'll get another chance to celebrate. We'll get those rings. And I would say this to our fans, and it's really a reminder to myself, too. We do got to enjoy being world champions. We do got to enjoy that and being able to stick out our chest and being the best in the world, because that's special too. And so I'm gonna really try, because I don't know that I've done a good job of that because of just kind of the run that we've been on here with free agency and losing players which hurt, and then the draft. But I'm gonna try to take the next couple of months here and enjoy every second of it, and be really proud of the accomplishments that we had, and at the same time looking forward about making more accomplishments happen.
Yeah, because how are we supposed to explain to the younger generation that it used to not be this easy? You know, like I got a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. Like, do I got to show them the Rondé Barber interception and understand that what we had to go through to get to this moment? I mean, these kids are spoiled these days. Howie, you spoiled a whole generation of Eagles fans.
Yeah, well, I see that. You know, I see it. You know, sometimes I see it that, you know, we lose a player and everyone's upset, but I promise you, we're going to do everything we can to get back. There's no resting on laurels. That doesn't mean we can't be proud. That doesn't mean we can't really stick out our chests and know that we're 2-time world champs. When I saw those 2 trophies with BG and him holding them, I mean, that gave me chills.
Yeah. So I got 2 quick hitters for you, Howie, before we let you go.
Okay.
How much does it pain you to keep drafting these Georgia and Bama kids and no Gators? I mean, we got to get a Gator for you.
You know, I did get a Gator and then drafted a free agent.
Nice.
Hey, there you go.
You know, Montrell Johnson. You know, I think at the end of the day, here's the most important thing. I think Nolan Smith said it right. I just want to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't care where they come from. They come from Toledo. They come from Georgia. They come from Florida. They come from Alabama.
Michigan State.
Whatever it is,
Bloomsburg.
on our team,
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. What did you say, Ike?
I said Michigan State.
I knew you were going to say that.
Come on, man.
Hey, Ben Van Summeren.
Yeah,
man.
BVS,
He's
baby.
good,
I
man.
know. What a guy. Now, give me a second one.
All right. So Elliot Shore-Parks won Eagles Insider of the Year on this show. Do you think he was worthy of that this year? Think he was the number 1 Eagles Insider?
Well, I'll tell you what. I can honestly say this, and Bob will say, I don't have social media. With all due respect to the people I'm listening to, I don't listen to anything, so I have no idea what that means. I would say this. I would say the best insider that I know, you're talking to him right here.
That's
You want to hear what's going on with the Eagles? Let's talk to me. Let's talk. I'll tell you the truth.
all right. We'll have you on every week then. Sounds good. All right.
Oh, geez.
I'm just kidding.
Too good. I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks, Howie.
Appreciate the time, Howie.
Happy BJ Day on May 5th. That's a special thing.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Howie.
There he goes, Howie Roseman.